I believe that the same beings that just are no longer so obvious, they created the simulation. Now they don't have to be handling the humans anymore. And the same beings, I think, are behind our structures that are running here on Earth, covered governments and all that.
Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers. It's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in to another inspired conversation. This is one that I've been really excited about. I actually couldn't wait for this day to come. We've been talking about the matrix, the simulation, reincarnation, how it all works, what is beyond and beyond and beyond a lot lately on our show. And I think it's time that we really explore this in depth, and I couldn't think of a better guest for this show than Isabella Greene, who is a metaphysical specialist, spiritual healer, and best-selling author dedicated to awakening consciousness and empowering humanity's freedom. Her debut book, Leaving the Trap: How to Exit the Reincarnation Cycle, has captivated audiences and led to appearances on Coast to Coast AM, Next Level Soul, Jeff Meyer Podcast, and Iconic TV. She's also featured in the brilliant 2024 documentary, The Great Unknown, and David Icke's book, The Reveal. With decades of experience in out of body exploration and mastering ancient techniques, Isabella helps others reclaim their soul sovereignty and break free from the reincarnation cycle. Please welcome with me, Isabella Greene. Hello, my friend. How's it going?
Hi, it's so wonderful to be here. It's an honor. Thank you very much for having me. I've been looking forward to this. I know you and your audience are on the same page, are very much on the same page. So I think we can have a very coherent discussion here, and I look forward to it.
Same here. Actually, Isabella and I have been sort of almost geeking off now for 20 minutes off camera and just sharing experiences and thoughts and wonderful alignment too. Isabella, I heard your voice in The Great Unknown because I was honestly, don't tell anyone, I was driving and listening to the movie. So I heard your voice and I had read about you before and I had sort of seen you before. And I in like within a few seconds, I was like, okay, she is 100% authentic, 100% on point, and no bullshit. I loved that approach. Like that's what spoke to me deeply, and so I'm so excited we get to have this opportunity. You are speaking about, writing about, and teaching about, I think, the foundational subject of our time, like the fundamental subject of our time, and it seems that a lot of people are ready for it. You know, more and more folks are sort of getting warmed up to the idea that this is a construct, not prime reality, prime earth. But you and others have been taking this to a whole new level by showing, teaching, and telling it doesn't stop here and it doesn't stop in the next dimension. We have a very complex structure that doesn't end in this world, it goes beyond. And that's sort of what we want to explore today. And most importantly, how do we get really out of it? How do we get beyond to the real thing, to the prime thing? So my first question really is, what was the aha moment for you that made you go explore all these things?
Well, there were many aha moments. There wasn't just one aha moment, but I started by exploring the astral, which a lot of people talk when they speak about out of body experiences. They talk about exploring the astral dimensions, and they don't realize that they are still within the matrix structure because the 12 dimensions of the astral are still a part of the matrix structure. As beautiful and heart opening and heaven like as they are, they still are artificial structures of the matrix right here. And we, by the way, we can influence that. We can influence our experiences within the astral. So I started at 17 years old doing astral projecting and exploring the dimensions of the matrix. So that led to me having awareness that there is a difference between different layers of the astral plane, and then there is a firmament. There is a border around it, and once you hit it, you kind of can't go anywhere. Why would there be a border? But that didn't, concern me when I was a teenager. I was like, yeah, well, that's where it ends, right? That's what I thought.
Mhm.
And then there came a point in 2010 when I learned the yogic ancient practice, Tantric Kriya Kundalini Pranayam, the type of breath work that after practicing that breath work, I reactivated or activated my third eye, and I was able to what I call now quantum travel past dimensions of the matrix straight into what the yogis call the absolute or the field of omnipresence, past any structure, past all these pretty constructs that are there for us to dazzle the average human being, straight into the field that you can say is the field of unconditional love, but that unconditional love is so much stronger and has such a different quality to it than what you experience within the dimensions of the matrix. Even the very best experience within the dimensions of the matrix would not compare to experiencing that base reality, if you wish, or the fabric of your soul. But you're not there as yourself, and you're not there as expression that remembers entanglement with the human realm. You're there as the pure awareness, pure consciousness, pure state of unconditional love. So you don't feel the love, you become the love, and it's a state of perfection. And once I experienced that the first time, then since then I started I continued training. I continued doing the practices because that was so liberating. Just like you mentioned in one of your talks, everything was there. There was no more desires, no more need, no more struggle and strive, no more, I need this to feel good, I need that. None of that. You just enter that state of unshakable inner peace and complete satisfaction on every level. Everything is there, but at the same time there is nothing. So it's the fulfillment on the level that the human consciousness within the human and matrix construct has a hard time grasping unless you had that experience. So you can say that that was my aha moment when I dipped my toe into the fabric of reality outside of the constructs of the matrix. But at the same time, and in between, there were different experiences, like near death experiences. I had a couple near death experiences that showed me that, well, fake Jesus and a bunch of angelic looking beings shepherding the souls, like that stuff. I was not very impressed at that point because I felt that I was duped. I felt that I was begging that uh, fakely loving being to not send me back to Earth, but it did anyway, and it looked just like Jesus. So that was what I believed in. So that happened, and then I had um, I just literally I can't even recall, and that's usually the best part. I can't even recall how I heard the idea that the reincarnation cycle is a hoax, that there is an entrapment system, and that the angels that we that train to believe in as the saviors, they actually the guards of that, like shepherd dogs, and stuff. I don't even recall where or how that entered my awareness. But then I had a um, hypnosis session, and I went into, and that was before the base reality, but I just went to ask if that was true, and I received the answer that it was true. surprisingly enough, considering what we were just discussing about regressions. But I did receive the confirmation, and it was true. And I think that that probably was a part of my soul that it still resides outside of the structure. I was whispering, "Yes, it is true."
Isn't isn't that incredible? I mean, I think your explanation of the void, the true void, is probably one of the best ones I've ever heard. And when it happened for me, when I later told people about it, people were like, "Why didn't you ask questions? Like, why didn't you ask this or that?" And I said, "Because you are the answers. You are everything at that point. You don't have questions, because you are already all answers, and you don't have a necessity to ask anything because you are everything, and there's no needs. There's just no desires, no needs." And then unless people experience it, they think it sounds boring. It's absolutely not boring. But the interesting thing, Isabella, is for me, the journey then was reverse engineering. So I knew about the astral planes and the dimensions and the yogic teachings and the sort of the samsara wheel and how you get out of it and then you progress into the next and the next and the next. But it was really reverse engineered. I first zapped out and then I reverse engineered it. So I think where a lot of people stand in their questions is so they can see that this world, I mean, and ever since coming back from the void for the first time, this world seemed more plastic, more artificial than ever before. People start seeing that. The big, the really big jump is when we leave this body, in that moment, what happens for most people is peace, bliss, relief, all of those things. It is so hard to sort of explain, yeah, but it's not the real thing. It is an artificial experience that is being induced. So, how do you do it when you talk about these things? Sort of ease people into it and make it, make it more tangible for them to understand what's happening.
Well, I don't try to convince anyone, but it turned out that there were a lot of people who were already in awareness that there's something wrong with the whole um, moment of passing, going into the white light, and then coming back and doing that all over again. And when I wrote my book, put it out, and I had no idea how many people were going to respond. I could not even imagine that that many people were already on the same page, saying that I knew it, I felt it, I always sensed it, I remember it on some level, but I did not have a tangible information, any tangible information at all. And your book actually helped me to kind of put two and two together, or makes perfect sense of what I intuitively knew. So there are a lot of those who, um, on the soul level, have the remembrance that they were due to come into here. I think the population keeps growing. I think that the system keeps recruiting cosmic souls, because for the first couple of incarnations, when they are still super connected to the origin, the essence, they produce the juiciest loosh, they produce the juiciest energy. And then by the age of 7, on the second or even the first or the second incarnation, that's it. They don't remember any of it, and they're just a part of the system right there. So I don't think there is a convincing there. A lot of people already have that intuitive remembrance that there is something just off. And that's what I hear a lot from people writing to me, saying, you know what, I always had this feeling that that this whole narrative about the karmic laws and reincarnation cycle, and that we're here to learn lessons, all of that makes no sense to me. Never made any sense to me intuitively, and now I understand why. And because I had years of tangible experiences outside of the matrix structure, And I've learned to my I taught myself to really bust through the barriers of the physicality and the mind, and bypass the whole bubble of that we have around earth here, with its electric grid or firmament or whatever you call it, that holds the whole structure together. Because I've had these experiences, people also intuitively feel that what I share has value. And so this is why um, I now am teaching that, because one experience within that reality, one experience of the absolute, and your entire earth life is changed forever. And as you continue,
Amen.
right, you know it firsthand, and as you continue, you can get farther and farther away and pave your way, create the skill to get out. And it happens right at the moment of death. So right at the moment, as you know that you're taking the last breath, you can direct yourself out of the structures. Do not lift slowly out of your field and float into the tunnel of white light. That's the way straight into the cycle. And you will be brainwashed there, like we are on this planet. And you will only remember that. And when you are regressed by the best practitioners, you will tell them the story that so many are saying in regressions. The pre-birth space is where the soul passed on and entered into the afterlife dimension, went through the life review, and were conditioned to believe that now, okay, you're going to pay your karma, take the lessons, the next incarnation, this and that. And that's what they remember in the pre-birth space. And this is what most people who are regressed talk about, as far as I have observed. And there is no recollection of anything before that, because that's what that electric grid is there for. It just buzzes off all of the awareness outside of the actual structure.
So, we talked about the void, which is the immaterial experience. At least it was in there was no,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even say there was light. I can't,
Mm-mm.
not even that is true. And it wasn't darkness either, but whatever, it's immaterial. But there's this notion, like you say, there's an electric grid, electromagnetic grid. This notion, this is the construct, this is the holographic reality that is being projected. So, in your understanding, is there a base or a prime Earth that is physical, that is real, that is tangible, or what has been your experience around prime creation, if you will, tangible creation?
I believe, and I have observed that the matrix structure, which many people call the simulation, right? It's a computer program or whatever, like some sort of AI program. That is a copy, like a facsimile copy, um, simulatrix, some people call it, right?
Simulacrum. Yeah.
Simulacrum, right, right. So that is that it generated a copy of everything that organically exists to maintain itself and to make us believe that we are within an organic reality. So, to answer your question, it sounds like I am pretty sure that there is the base planet Earth that is an actual object. But what we're experiencing here is a simulation of the entire thing, although it appears tangible and physical, same as everything else. But the program is really powerful. So we are um, deliberately we're in that program. Same like if you're in the video game, or if you're playing, even if you're playing the video game. I never played one, but if you're playing with the virtual reality, I've done virtual reality. 2 seconds into it, you already totally believe in that everything that you are experiencing through the headset is real. And so I think this is what's going on here.
So when you teach people, when you teach them the techniques,
Yeah.
with the intention for those who wanted to exit this simulation, have you, or matrix, have you ever thought about or considered what would be required or necessary to end it, to actually bring it down? And would it even be within our power to do that? Would it be in our best interest to do that? By whom was it created? What are the things that you've been finding about the nature of it or the creators of it? And do you think it would be in our interest to bring it down? And could we?
See, there is this belief now that, oh, the non-terrestrials are coming to dismantle, or they have already dismantled the reincarnation cycle, and I don't see how it's possible because it's one system. So if they dismantle the reincarnation cycle, the Earth plane reality will have to be dismantled too. So either the entire simulation goes away, goes down, or the entire structure stays, because you cannot dismantle one without the other, because they feed each other, they complete each other. All right, it's that loop that keeps going, and feeding energetically off of different layers. And even um in the great Yogananda's book, um his guru, Sri Yukteswar, who passed on, he talks about going to different planets which had the same karmic laws, and that people, being souls, were cross incarnating and continuing to be paying off karma. And unintentionally, that chapter just shows you how complex that structure is, just like you said, that it includes other beings, other planets, other, it's it includes, I guess, universes. What I saw in my visions were bubbles of realities under the umbrella of the bigger bubble. So non-terrestrial realities, and some people channel non-terrestrials who talk about the same stuff. They say, well, you're here to learn, you're here to this and that. And I think that they are in their own reincarnation cycles, and that's why they have these kind of beliefs, because they don't have access. But who created that? It was the consciousness who did not have, through an unfortunate series of events, the consciousness that lost access to the source of energy, the foundational fabric that we call the void, the true void, or the omnipresence. That, you've been there, once you enter that state of being, you come back like supercharged, right? You don't need
Oh,
sleep.
and for weeks you're flying, basically. You're
Yeah,
flying for weeks. There's it's almost weightless
you're right.
that you feel, yeah.
It supercharges your mind, your body, right here in this simulation, in this reality, because you just dipped a toe into the actual energetic composition of what you truly are, all of it. So throughout their devolution, the beings who had to manipulate and get energy from other beings were the original creators of the simulations around many different worlds, or of many different worlds. There are different beliefs that these are the reptilian beings. Paul Wallace, by the way, whose work I really admire. He is a brilliant um, researcher, and in one of his books, Escaping from Eden, he talks about as the process of creation of the human race and the system. And he says that that is very clearly explained in the book of Genesis if we pay attention to what it says. And
Yeah.
so it describes the beings the that were considered to be the gods and the angels, who were the same exact type of being. And he drives it all the way back down, saying that these were like dragons, or like some sort of reptilian type of consciousness that needed uh sacrifices and all of that. And so that they are at the base of, or at they're the founders of the layer of history that we're in currently. And I believe that the same beings that just are no longer so obvious, they created the simulation. Now they don't have to be handling the humans anymore. And the same beings, I think, are behind our structures that are running here on earth, covered governments and all that.
So, the eternal question has been really, in the last years, is, are we focusing all of our life energy to try to change this world? And don't get me wrong, I think everybody should live or become the best possible version of themselves, which is necessary anyways for what you're talking about. But should that be the focus? Change the world, make it better, try to change the systems, or should it be focused on reconnecting with that part of ourselves that is eternal, and and learn how to bypass this crap reincarnation bullshit cycle and return to prime reality, and I think you have sort of, you've taken it on and you're teaching people how to do that. So we are living through, for all intents and purposes, a mass extinction event. So this subject is very close to a lot of people. It's becoming very real. Family members, maybe, there's a lot going on. So how do you approach this? How do you start living more in tune with that? And how do you start learning what to do and what to focus on, and what how to make this transition happen?
I think that, let's imagine like a fish bowl, right? There's a like a bowl of water and the fish is floating in there, right? And the fish wants to get out and get back into the river, but there's no need to contaminate the water that you live within for the fish, because then would make everything terrible. So this is how I would answer. Um, do we work towards making this reality better? Of course, because it makes it easier, it makes it lighter, it makes it more enjoyable. It gives us good years here within the simulation, and we are perfectly capable of doing that because the simulation is flexible. All right, if you know the techniques and you understand how it works, understand how it works, that you can influence your reality within the simulation, and you can have a decent experience. So why have a shitty experience, sorry, when you can have a decent experience while still here, and in parallel pave the way out of the structure, so when this circle around this planet, cycle around this planet is over, then you can get out. That's it. So focusing on dismantling the whole system, I don't know. I honestly am not sure if we have that kind of capacity to overpower. I mean, this would require every single person on Earth waking up, including the NPCs. I mean, do you see that happening anytime soon? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not, but I'm a big thinker in that regard. I try to have this big structure in my head, and what we could maybe achieve. But you touch on something. I think it's important on this in this particular point in the conversation. A lot of people, they connect through their lifetimes with spirit guides, with angels, and they help them. They literally help them to make their reality, their individual reality better, and give them teachings that apply to the simulation. So they become very trusted spirit guides. People get very triggered when you say, well, they still are part of this construct, and what they do is ultimately helping you to come back here over and over again. Can you talk a little bit about the spirit guides, the angels, and this spectrum of beings that people have such faith in, but that are oftentimes unfortunately deceptive?
Well, we have been conditioned since day one, since creation of this particular version of the human race, at least, to worship is the anything that glows in the dark. We worship it, right? Anything that just appears with like wings and like says, "Hey, I'm gonna like teach you," and we're like, "Yes, please teach us," like, right? So because we're trained to believe that we're so inferior, that we're so incompetent, we're so below these glowing beings. We're trained to worship and take for granted everything that they bring to us, from the perspective that the belief that it's for the highest good of the race, and or the race, or the humans, or the planet, or just the highest good of all, or that it's God's will, right there. So there's history behind it. The ones who did not obey without question were very, very severely punished um, back in the day by the angels. 70,000 troops exterminated by one wave of the angel's wing, because the king decided to like not obey 100% of the orders, but obeyed 99.9%, right? So the human race was very much conditioned to take it and believe and follow and don't question. And then not to not to mention all of the more present, more recent day religious constructs and everything. So the angels, the messengers of gods, if we take the idea that the gods or the reptilian beings that are feeding off of the human race, the angels show up and start bringing some sort of assistance so that you will have belief in them. Because if there was a belief that, hey, if an angel showed up, run, it's gonna screw you up, and for multiple incarnations to come, right? Um, no one would follow. It's a marketing. It's a very smart marketing campaign, right? One angel shows up and helps, and that person is so blown away. They tell everyone they know that this happened, and so everyone is convinced that if an angel shows up with them, they should follow or that help. So they give help, real tangible help, but they have an agenda. That's it. The agenda is to maintain the system and maintain you as their stock within the system. It's the same kind of relationship as humans have with our farm animals, right? We take care of them, we feed them, we make sure they're protected from the wolves, we show up with shepherd dogs and protect them, right? But man, dinner time comes, I'm sorry, right? It's the same
Yeah.
thing exactly with the beings. And I posit that any being that shows up and starts teaching you something without your request, when you did not reach out and say, I need this knowledge, I want to receive this knowledge. A lot of people like will have an out of body experience, and poop, there'll be a being there, and that will be and be like, I'll tell you the truth, I'll show you the truth. And very often you need to also pay attention. There are hooks. For example, let's take like a teenager a teenager who is, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 years old, and the spirit appears to them, gorgeous female, lush, naked body, right? Or the visual of the nude female in front of them. Do you think there's a little hook in there as to, like, believe every word I gonna tell you?
Jesus, Isabella, I think of myself at 16 and, well,
Yeah.
that could probably would have hooked me. I mean, I'll be
Right.
completely honest with you.
Why wouldn't it be like, if we take this example, why wouldn't it be like an 85-year-old fully dressed grandma? Because
Yeah.
that's not gonna immediately it's not going to immediately be like, oh my god, she's so beautiful. I can't help myself, I'm gonna believe every word she's saying, right? And then that spirit is going to teach and utilize the right words and the right concepts that are very heart opening, and leading the person to believe that they are, serving the highest good. But it's the same as what we have here in the present day narrative. You were talking about the New World Order recently on your channel with all the right words, pushing the agenda of the system. And it's the same exact thing with the beings who show up to help and teach. But if you pay attention, then you might notice that what they're teaching is just to continue the system running and to continue the beliefs that serve that system. So, this is what I have realized about spirit guides, and especially angelic looking ones. And they could, I think, because it's also a projection. So it's going to show up in the form that you're going to believe the most. If you want to believe, if you believe that it's an extraterrestrial being, it's going to look like an extraterrestrial. It's not a shape-shifting being, it's just like a different source code right there.
And very often, Isabella, people that do have these communications, whether they're just in forms of channeling or they actually see something, very often these people are told that they're extremely important, that they are somebody very big or have in the past been somebody very big, that their presence on Earth is highly important, and then they teach them the things that you talk about. It speaks to our human, like a lot, as humans we want to feel like we have purpose, like we have it, our life has deep meaning, which on another level it really does. But how do you feel and know what is your system of maybe even teaching people, how do you know whether that is the truth or not? I would say when somebody says you're so important for this world, be very careful. This is usually a pride deception factor.
For
um
sure. For
is there
sure.
a way to know for sure?
It's a hook for sure. So it's important to pay attention to the presentation and the hooks and the mission statements, all right? Because the human race has been conditioned into inadequacy by the same beings, by the way, right? From the very beginning, that we are inferior and that we need to evolve and we need to get better. Meanwhile, they created us that way, and now we're paying off, or we're trying to make ourselves better. Um, so this makes no sense whatsoever. But the inadequacy, not good enough, feeling the lack of uh, purpose of existence, that is very strong within the human race. Then not good enough, and so that's what they tap into the most. And so you're just being manipulated through, you know they know the human condition in and out because they created it for us. The original trauma, the generational trauma, was created at the time of creation of the first humans within this layer of history, within this part of the human history, and it's just been passed on from one generation to the next. And the number one, the foundational sensation and the foundational trauma is not good enough, inadequacy, right there. And so tapping into that, oh my God, that feels amazing. So the person would be very inspired. All of a sudden they have the reason for existence. All of a sudden they have the purpose of doing something, and it doesn't mean that they're not bringing something good on a certain level, right? Making the fishbowl a little less shitty, cleaning up the stuff and whatever. But and when we see the outcome of that, we believe that more, right? We see the outcome that, well, you can influence the simulation, you can have a good time here, you can um, make a difference for other people and help them, and I do that too, right? I think that it's fair for the human race to suffer less and to figure out how to deal with the structure so that we can have a decent enough experience, and in parallel stop or minimize the lush production. So kind of giving a little finger there to the owners.
Well, you touched on the, the generational eternal trauma cycle, which in my own experience and an experience with the work that we did with people one on one or in groups is that a lot of these realizations, experiences, deep meditative experiences, and going to higher levels of consciousness and truth is virtually impossible if a certain level of unhealed trauma is
Mm.
present. And would you say that it is essential for the work that you do and what you teach people that trauma healing needs to happen first?
Absolutely, absolutely, but not first, because it depends on the technique that you have. If you have the technique that is going to take you out of body, not astral, not into the astral, but straight into the base reality, then with the right technique, you are going to be able to have that experience. But in parallel with that, doing the inner healing work is crucial so that you're not so susceptible to the hooks of manipulation, and so that you're not carrying that baggage in your soul when you are passing on. A lot of people would dim themselves not good enough to leave, or not good or guilty of something, and um, clearing all these programs while you still can, while you're still here, is absolutely a part of the process of liberating your soul from all that earthly stuff. It's all just earthly stuff. And
Hmm.
I think what's sick about this system is that it carries over into the afterlife. Although you, right? Although you are in the light form and you are in heavenly realm, but you still remember, you still are entangled with the earthly traumas and desires. And so that just tells you, is if you're entangled with the human aspect and desires, you still within the simulation for sure.
So detachment is, that dying, dying while you're still alive,
Yeah.
the small death, if you will. That in my experience was also essential. Another one was, and I was never a religious person, but um I'm starting to really see very clearly that almost everything that any religion teaches is literally like the operating system for this construct, and including the new age. And it does not really transition over into even the next dimensions, let alone has any validity outside of the simulation. Is that your observation as well, or is it more nuanced than that?
No, I agree. I agree for sure. Um, it's the same thing where the right words and the right concepts are used to, or the bigger concepts are used to maintain the system and maintain the agenda. Very much so. I agree 100%. And the new age is possibly even more convoluted or confusing than the religious teachings. Like the hardcore religions, at least it's clear what they're doing.
Yeah, it's like consistent, right?
Right, with the new age there is so much misinformation, and like there'll be a little bit of information that makes sense or that is connected to the truth, and then the rest of it is just piled on top of it to sustain the agenda. And majority of, unfortunately, majority of people don't have the awareness, don't have enough awareness to tell the difference. And for example, um, out of body experience, out of body experience, right? All we hear is OBE, right? OBE. But there is an OBE, there's an out of body, what is called the out of body experience, that takes you into the astral plane. In other words, that's astral projecting, right? That's an out of body experience. And so someone who is teaching out of body experiences is doing no one any good service except teaching them how to explore the structures of the matrix. Because it, but people who don't know the difference between the astral projecting as as the outer body experience, or the outer body experience that literally bypasses all that and takes you out of the top of the head, you, like a rocket into the different like outside of the structure, that's also called the out of body experience, right? But people would Google out of body experience, and then they would follow someone who just is all teaching them or sharing with them how to go straight into the dimensions of the matrix, so they're not going anywhere, although they believe that, oh, I'm now learning how to have out of body experiences. See, and it's the same kind of like with every concept, there is a fake one on top of it. Right.
Exactly. For everything that's true, there's the copy thing, and the copy is being presented to us. I mean,
Yeah.
even usually in the first, I want to say, years of someone really going into meditation, you're usually, when you're going out, you're usually going into the astral. You're usually having
Yeah.
these ethereal experiences, and they're beautiful, and you have the rainbows and
Yeah.
all that. But if you keep going, and that's always been my motto, what else is there?
Yeah.
What else is there? Eventually you just go straight past it because
Yeah.
something pulls you, and that something is, to me, the real thing, the real void, the everything that is. What is in that? Maybe it's, I think it's interesting to know, what is your perception of creation, creator, source consciousness, what people call God, and is there, in your perception, in your understanding, a hierarchy, an authority?
There is hierarchy and authority within the matrix structure, for
Mhm.
sure. Within the artificial structures, there's definitely hierarchy and authority.
But I
Within,
mean beyond it, beyond it.
beyond it, it's just the quantum field of information, if you wish, or a field of consciousness, or the omnipresence, or the field of the absolute, or the energy of the true void. And it does not have any light, just like you said, but it contains everything and nothing at the same time. And that is, from my perspective, that is what true God is and true source is. And even the archonic beings and the beings that we don't appreciate, they're made of the same energy. Everything, all is one. That's that. It's all made of the same energy. It's just a different level of consciousness that shapes it into different type of form. And within that field, There is no judgment. There is no deciding that, oh, this is good or this is bad. There is no pointing finger at like, oh, you shouldn't do this or you should do that. You need to evolve and be better, or you cannot be like an evil something. It's neutral, completely neutral to the expression of itself. And on the subject of source, if I may, right here, um,
Of course, of course.
there is a belief that very popular on Earth, that we contribute to source through our earthly human experiences, right? Okay,
I want to bang my head. I want to bang my head. You're saying that the popular notion that God wants to experience itself through us, through our experiences here on Earth.
please. Okay. Um,
Is that what you're talking about? This
yes,
notion?
that
Okay.
belief, right? The only if you have experienced the omnipresence for millisecond, you will know how false that is, because everything is already there. All experiences, all potentials. There is no need for growing or evolving. But the only way we are contributing to source through our experiences if what's called source is source code for this simulation. Think about it. It's like upgrading the next iPhone, right? It like co-
Hmm.
connects to the present day uh requirements, or the present day uh whatever um, level of need, right, that
Hmm.
they can push on us, so that they can create. It's based on information of the user, that the user brings, right? That's how the cell phones are
That's how
updating.
the AI learns. That's how the AI evolves. It picks up the information and it adjusts.
And this is how we contribute to source code of the simulation. So from that perspective, check this out. It's the same thing we've been talking all along, that the words are there, but they mean a completely different thing, right? We are contributing to source, but we're contributing to freaking source code of the simulation, so it can produce the more updated levels of itself for the to sustain itself. You see what I mean?
100%, and it also makes total sense in terms of the expression. I think what is difficult is you mentioned earlier Paramahansa Yogananda. You mentioned the teachings, the gurus, the yogis, even the techniques that they teach. Like for example, the Kriya Yoga. I mean, there are some valuable nuggets in there, but the concepts as a whole are still keeping people in this loop. I mean, that's what they do for the most part. So I'm wondering, Isabella, is it enough? Let's say one of maybe some of our viewers are coming to their transitioning point. Maybe in a year, maybe in 10, maybe in a month. I don't know. Is it enough to say I want to go back to source? I'm not doing this any longer. Is that enough?
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe, unfortunately, if it was that easy, you think people would still have that many people here on Earth saying I want to get out? I don't think so. Um, before we go there, what you mentioned about the yogic teachings, if you look at the yogic teachings, all of it is about getting out of samsara. All of it is about breaking the cycles of Maya, right? So the idea is get out, but how? That is where it gets a little bit confused through like levels of
Yeah, but
evolution
I'm
and
sorry to
growing.
interrupt. But are you saying because in my perception it's yeah, evolve to the next level, like go to the next level and the next level, but ultimately all of this still, at least in I don't know if the concept of nirvana is heaven within the construct, or is it actually the real thing? Is it the void? What is it in your perception?
I think that is outside of the construct, and I think that they were I think that they had the tools, but they also had the confusion about uh, the actual process. All right. I think that they were the ones who used the tools and got out, and we never heard of them coming back and telling us that
It
you know,
worked.
right, because it worked exactly. Them coming back and telling us you need to go through 12 layers of whatever, this and that, or seven heavenly gates, or whatever else, blah blah blah, is out there, right? So it's those who didn't make it come back and tell these, create these constructs, or they're being guided by spirits that don't have our best interests in mind. But there were a few, I'm sure that there were a few who practice the techniques, because the techniques are very powerful if you really stay with the techniques. And the Kriya Yoga technique, and the breath work that you mentioned, that took you into the field of everything, that is really powerful. You said you only did it for 10 days. I have
Well,
so
I hadn't started with that, so that was a progression of years, but that was 10 days was focused on that, yeah.
Yeah, and I had someone in my group, one of my followers or students, who just did the technique for 2 weeks nonstop, broke through without doing any healing work, but was not ready for the void experience. He freaked out because the humanness wasn't in there. All right, so there is a way of, you need to prepare the mind a little bit before you launch. uh I had someone who is in her 80s. She's in her 80s, and she just started doing the practice and the breath work and getting up every night, and boom, she had that experience. She had a kundalini awakening experience, and she had the experience of the field of everything and nothing. And
Wait,
she
wait, Isabella, isn't Kundalini that demonic stuff?
oh,
Isn't that the
stop.
stuff you should stay away from? Well,
Yeah, yeah,
it's
it's the
it's
work
good
of the
marketing,
devil.
like you said.
The
It's
work
good
of the
marketing,
devil.
isn't it?
The work of the
It's good
devil.
marketing. So you're talking about the breath technique, and you're talking about the nightly meditations. Can you speak a little bit about that and how you teach people in the Void Academy, and what they learn when they work with you?
When they work with me, I teach the technique that took me out of the physical, and the first time, and continues to do so. And you can apply the same technique to do the inner healing work also, because it shows you your subconscious mind. It helps to stop the brain chatter, and conquer your body vehicle also, and your mind. And so you literally get to experience yourself as the true essence of the soul. So this is what I teach. I teach the breath work that is considered to be a very advanced level of breath work. It's called the cosmic cobra breath. Oh my God, cobra! Did she say cobra? Is that
She said
reptilian?
Kundalini. She said Cobra.
She,
She must.
right, that's it. The end of the world. Yeah, but many mystical traditions have this same technique, have used the same technique on a very advanced level. And they traditionally taught that people had to spend years preparing. Right, you have to drop your humanness first before you're ready. You do you do this technique, you make it your daily practice, the humanness will drop off by itself. Here's that, this whole, like, um grip of desires on your personality, on your state of mind, that all releases completely. Your perspective of on things changes completely. So it's the other way around. So the humans very often confusing the chicken with the egg. This is also very common, right? Have you noticed that the most common thing is to present causality, right? The cause and effect, present as effect as a cause, and the cause as an effect. It's the other. It's the most typical human condition as well. And so I think that a lot of yogic teachings um, were under that spell, where they said you have to first drop all of your humanness, your go in the monastery on the mountain, and after that you are worthy of, and spend 30 years before you're worthy of practicing this technique. I practice this technique, and the rest occurred on its own. So this is what I teach now, and because it helps you to make the way to develop the skill of handling your non-physical form, your energy, your life force, your kundalini energy, and that's your rocket fuel that lights up the entire spirit form, or entire soul, if you wish. I believe it's the same thing. So it's a non-physical expression of yourself outside of this body, and you light it up with your kundalini energy, and you direct it like a rocket wherever you want to go, and that generates so much force that it does not um, you cannot get trapped within the astral. You actually bypass the astral, you bypass the entire structure. So it's a very different way of having an out of body experience. It is an out of body experience too, but it is not astral projecting at all.
And frankly, I think, we if we learn that, when we learn that, we also return to the knowing that we can choose when that right time is, rather than have it be chosen for us,
Yes.
which usually includes, bodily decay and suffering and all those things that are hindering or prohibiting, even
Yeah.
sometimes, from this process.
And um, as you can influence the matrix structure, you can influence the simulation, but you have to have discipline, and you have to have focus, and you have to stop sitting on your phone, and and letting your mind spin in the matrix constructs. You have to focus. You have to decide this is what you want, and then you can manifest just about anything you like within the even within the limits of the simulation. You can also manifest the your departure scenario. It is the same exact mechanism as, we talk about the law of attraction here, we talk about creating your reality, right? We talk about it, it's all new age terms that really translate in being able to influence the simulation, or influence the energy field to experience a certain outcome. Like you said, everything is already there, everything is already created, right? Within this structure, the simulation generates what you believe, generates what you focus on, generates what you intend, but you have to have your full focus, full passion on it. And then, oh, easy manifesting, right there.
And
That,
be it. I mean,
yeah.
it's literally, you experience what you are. There's nothing more to it. And you can't fake what you are. I mean, what you are, and then you either change that or your reality doesn't change. It's
it,
one of the.
Absolutely, 100%. And so the departure scenario, quite literally how your body dies, it doesn't have to be traumatic. It doesn't have to be in a hospital from cancer or some god awful scenario. But you need to drop the fears. If you have a fear of how it's gonna, the worst case scenario, I'm terrified of dying in a fire. Chances are you're gonna die in a fire, because you're so invested in that. Fear is a very strong magnet within this reality. Okay, this is why they keep us all in fear all the time. Not all of us, but majority, because that generates the worst case scenario on this planet. So it's important to find the peaceful space within, and then just visualize the circumstances of your departure, and it's the same manifestation as anything else. So the whole idea that how is going to happen, it's just going to hit me unexpectedly, I just going to we can take that aspect out and take the whole fear out, because you can visualize and manifest the way you're going to depart, and the body is going to depart. How the body shuts down, you create that as a part of your the manifesting within the matrix, and then you just direct yourself wherever you want to go. So saying I want to go home does not work. Turn around from the white light, say I want to go home, does not work. What works in my perspective and my strong belief is you pave the way out of the matrix structure while still alive, and then when your body perishes exactly the way you envisioned, you direct yourself right there, right to that familiar space. And going into the fabric of everything to rest a little bit gives you the freedom, because you become consciousness of everything, and that gives you the freedom to express itself without any external influence, anyone's external agenda. You literally dissolve into the fabric of everything, and then a tiny part of you can go and have a different experience somewhere else without anyone else's imposition. So this is what I teach.
And if if you listen to this, my friends, this gives self-reliance a whole new meaning. It, it takes it to a whole new level, but it absolutely confirms what we've been talking about so much, that we are the ones we've been waiting for, that we are our own saviors, literally,
Yeah.
and that there is no one and nothing outside of us that can do this for us. We
Yeah.
can be helped, we can be assisted in learning this, we can be shown certain things, but it is us, and that is the best news of all news,
Yeah.
because it means you don't have to go anywhere, you don't have to become something else, you don't have to vote for anybody. It's always been you, and that's been our message for years and years and years. Isabella, there's so many things that I would still love to discuss, but I'm extending this open invitation. I would love for you to come back. I would love for us to dive deeper into certain aspects of this conversation. Before today, you have so much to offer. Where can people find your books? Where can they find you? Where can they find your work? Get in touch with you and learn from you.
I have opened an online school, the void the void academy.net. I think you'll put the link right in
Yes, we'll
the
put it all in the
description there.
description. Yes.
So if you go to the voidacademy.net, I'm teaching online classes. I'm teaching, actually, next week, I'm teaching um, how to prepare yourself for the void experience, how to prepare the mind. There's so much interference with the mind. You don't need 30 years in a cave in the monastery. You just need to know what to expect, and how, and to prepare your consciousness for that experience. I teach the practices in the course that's recorded, that's on uh, that website, that you can purchase, learn the practices. And I just taught the side effects class, meaning, when you're training for anything, even like if you train and go to the gym the first time, you're going to experience some discomfort, right? So if you're training to break through the barriers of the mind, the body, the system, the structure, there's going to be some discomfort. People sitting on the couch doing nothing, they don't go anywhere, they don't experience anything. So I just taught the side effects class, and it's going to be on that website also, the replay will be. I'm teaching another one, how to know the difference between whether you landed in the astral plane, or you are in the true void, or you're in the simulation of the void. We touched upon that a little bit, right? So I'm teaching that in March. I'm teaching 2 in-person workshops. And just for your audience, I'm going to mention the one in June, one in January. But the one in June, I'm actually bringing a practitioner who teaches third eye, um, how to see through the blindfold with your third eye, just utilizing the third eye function. So she will be alongside with me teaching. So the voidacademy.net is where you can click and see where my books are, Leaving the Trap and Beyond the Trap. They're both on um, Amazon. And I do personal sessions too, but they don't have much to do. They're more for empowerment within this structure, like keeping the fishbowl clean, making the best reality out of what we deal with. Hey, we're here anyway, right? Might as well do.
Might as well make it great.
Right, might as well make it great and help someone else make it great. So these are my personal sessions, and that's at isabellagreen.com.
Wonderful. Thank you. We'll put all the links in the description. Isabella, thank you for this expansive conversation. I really enjoyed it. I love how straightforward you are, and I love how you put it out there without all the bubbly, airy fairy, new age talk that I've almost gotten an allergy towards. Too much bullshit, too little truth. So yeah,
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you.
you. It was a great pleasure for me and an honor to be on this channel. Thank you for inviting me. I wish you the most wonderful forward movement into infinity of the absolute.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Um, right back to you, my friend. The same. Thank you for everything you do in this crazy, crazy world. And that is the truth, my friend. So,
Yeah.
Inspired Tribe, thank you so much for tuning in. You know, we love you, we appreciate you, and we will be back with you again very, very soon.
Thank you.